Fighting for freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. The Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now at 865-243-8255. That's 243-TALK. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
And we're back. This is Patrick Riggins with the Patrick Riggins Show. Works well like that when you have the host hosting the show named after him. We're here back for the last segment. This is usually kind of a short segment, but what I want to do is kind of carry over from that last caller we had, and he was expressing some frustration with congressional people not listening. My opinion kind of on all this and who we should vote for and everything is, I think in the presidential election, you should vote for the person who best supports your views. Be that Barack Obama, Mitt Romney, Gary Johnson, or one of the other candidates with whom you most agree. When it comes to Congress, I think here is where you start to run into could be a little bit of a problem as far as your principles. I think you have to balance your vote, and this is in Congress, between the person who is most likely to win and is closest to supporting freedom and liberty and the person with whom you might agree the most. Oftentimes, these are not the same candidate. Unfortunately, sometimes you have to make a sacrifice or two to get a few steps forward in life. The solution is to get good quality candidates for Congress and get them elected. Then you don't have to make that hard choice. And it won't matter who the president is, because the Congress will be full of strong, constitutionally minded people with the backbone to vote the way they should. This is the ideal we should be working towards. Personally, I believe we can make it if we work hard enough. After all, we had plenty of naysayers when we decided to fight a war for our country to gain our independence, and yet we prevailed. It wasn't easy, but with hard determination and persistence, we made it. Getting good people elected is nothing compared to fighting a war for your independence. But the crux of the matter is you have to go vote. And I know most of the people listening in this audience more than likely go vote. And that's fantastic. But I know you know probably 5 to 10 people who don't vote. And that's where the problem is. Real quick, I have a quick note here on this last election here in Tennessee, particularly Knox County, where this radio show is based here out of Knoxville. This last election, we had about 24,500 people vote. And that's according to the unofficial cumulative report that I have here that was dated August 2nd. They might have something a little later out, but I'd say the numbers are pretty close. Now, that's counting absentee, early, and regular Election Day voting. The latest number of registered voters I could find was about 258,000, plus a little up or back. So, if these numbers prove to be correct, it means that 10% or a little less of the registered people voted. That's where we're running into a problem with these guys and gals that go in to Congress and forget what they're there for. They're not worried about what 90% of the people in their district think, because 90% of the people in their district aren't voting. So now in presidential elections nationwide, we get about half. I think it's 50 to 51% of registered voters vote. Again, not that the presidential election is a huge deal. Personally, I don't see it as one because, as I state, the Congress is the one holding the purse strings. They're the ones that if you get Congress turned around, then it kind of well, lack for a better word, neuters the president. Yes. So, but that would limit a lot of what he can do. If he or she, I'm not trying to be sexist, and it's using he in the pejorative term as far as the president's concerned, but if he wants to do something and issue an executive order, then all Congress has to do is say, we're not going to fund that. We're trying that tact with Obamacare, and we see the problems we're running into there in Congress. Now, the Republican presidential candidate is saying he's going to repeal Obamacare, but they want to turn right back around and replace it with something else. So is that really better? Well, no, of course not. This is something the government doesn't need to be in. As do you know, if you listen to this show, this is just something we feel very strongly about. Government doesn't need to be in 3/4 of the things it's doing. I think that's where we run into this problem, and we've taken a couple of callers on it before in the past about libertarians who are trying to have this lack of, or have this problem with their principles. Do I vote for my principles, or do I vote for the person who I think is going to stop the destructive path we're on? Of course, my analysis a lot of times is, well, you can vote for the person who's going to destroy the country in a year, or you can vote for the person who's going to destroy it in 5 years. Either way, I don't think you can put a whole lot of credence in the presidential election. Just, vote however you want to go. But the Congress is the key. Congress is who we need to concentrate on. Along those same lines, we also I have this quick story right here. There is a protest rally here in downtown Knoxville about a week or so ago. I don't know if you could call 50 people a protest rally, but that's who showed up. But they're protesting this new law in Tennessee requiring a government-issued photo ID in order to vote in the election. The participants are claiming the new law is nothing more than a way to target minorities, the poor, and the elderly who may have no means of attaining a photo ID. This, I think, is just totally ignorant, because they've said now you can go get this photo ID if that's the problem. And as far as I know, all the K-Trans buses run out downtown. So a lot of times these people, though, are, of course, manipulating these groups in order to try and get this law stopped. And they say there's not much that in voter fraud. But even if a little bit of voter fraud, we don't want any of that. They say you're more likely to be struck by lightning than to encounter voter fraud. My argument with that is I'm also more likely to be struck by lightning than to be mauled by a bear. But that doesn't mean I'm not careful in the woods. I'm also 30 times more likely to be struck by lightning than to be attacked by a shark. But that doesn't mean I don't keep an eye out when I'm in the water at the beach. So,
or going down the highway.
Yeah. Land shark, to quote the OSNL. Land shark. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is try and put a lot of thought into your congressional elections. The presidential elections, I don't think it really matters that much if we have Congress, and a Congress that follows what it should be doing constitutionally, and that's the most important thing. And if you don't have a candidate that's listening to you or responding to you, then either you run or get somebody who will run and get grassroots support underneath them and get them elected. The Tea Party has proven you can do this. This is a doable thing. You just have to get out and do it. It's not going to be done itself. It's not going to be done if you go to work and come home and sit there and watch TV and then complain to everybody about it. What you have to do is get out and make it happen. Anyway, we're up on the end of the show here. Thank you again for listening to the show this week. If you'd like more information about it, you can go to our Facebook page at facebook.com and then the / Patrick Riggins Show. That's RIGGINS Show. Be sure and hit that like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at the little @ Patrick Riggins. And if you miss anything, want to hear something again, or listen to the whole show, you can go to youtube.com / Patrick Riggins Show. You can also get us at patrickriggins@gmail.com if you want to email us, or you can send us something through U.S. mail via the station here at WNOX on Kingston Pike in Knoxville. Join me next Sunday afternoon, where once again we'll talk more about freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. This is Patrick Riggins, and we will see you next Sunday afternoon. Have a great week.
Join us again next week for a solid dose of truth on The Patrick Riggins Show every Sunday from 4 to 5 p.m. Be there.